and welcome back to another episode of Over the Glass. I am Drew.
I'm
I'm
Nessa.
Jay.
Womp.
You get two co-hosts for the price of one, and Jay and Nessa, really, truly.
Jay Nessa. That's gonna be our new name.
Jay Nessa. We're forming hybrids on Over the Glass.
Could be
Welcome.
Nessie.
Don't like that.
Yes.
Don't like it.
Oh,
Please
no.
don't.
What if we called you like the Lock J Ness Monster?
Sure.
That's probably going to be the name of the new Tahoe Night Monsters mascot. I mean, they could use that if they wanted. For Chris $5, I'll sell it to them.
we can be Drew
Chris, but-
Janesi.
Drew
Just
Janesi.
form a whole new person.
I love that. I'm small enough that if you put me on one of your shoulders, we could all be a mega person.
We're all small.
Talking right. So
we could
then
be
we would
one person.
Yes, we could go on roller coasters finally. Speaking of mega people, GM of the year, getting some traction, some debate out there. You guys are Sharks fans. Today I'm a Sharks fan. You guys helped us punch our ticket to the Stanley Cup playoffs this season.
I don't remember what that is.
Yeah, I mean,
What is that?
that's just like it's been.
what is playoffs?
Yeah. So, Jay, Nessa, I know you guys are more informed about the things that Mike Greer is doing there in San Jose. A lot of people got comments about the rebuild and whether or not that's going the way it should. Listen, I'm a little bit biased when we talk about GM of the year because I do really think the Canucks front office has had quite the turnaround. Like I was just doing something with the last 10 games of the season compared to this 10 games of the season. I think there's a good argument to be made. But Jay, what's the argument here for, and Nessa, both of you guys, what's the argument here for Mike Greer to be a part of that list as well when we're talking about GM of the year in the big national show?
Seriously or unseriously? Just kidding.
However you want it.
I'm gonna circle back. I'm gonna what do you call it? Bring back a topic we talked about last week. DEI. For diversity purposes. Great candidate. Just kidding. Go ahead, Jade.
So I came across this tweet from Greg Wyshynski of ESPN. And, if you've caught us on the last episode, I went on an unhinged rant about people outside of our Sharks media just taking a look at the Sharks and clearly showing that they've never taken a glance at us, hardly ever. And they've got thoughts. And some of their thoughts
Are wrong.
Continue to keep them to yourself because you are uninformed, severely uninformed about this team. But what I liked about what I saw from Greg Wyshynski, who was talking about GM of the year with Jeff Merrick on Sportsnet, is that, like, I get it. Like, these awards at the end of the year, they are to kind of reward winning in this sport. And that's kind of what they were discussing. They were discussing about the Canucks organization and the Canes organization just doing a lot of things to get their team to the playoffs and have their best chance to win the cup this year. But Greg at the end made a pitch for Mike Greer to be in the conversation, despite how these awards circulate around the winning aspect of the sport. The amount of effort and moves that Mike Greer has made in this year alone to get the Sharks back into the right lane to get back to a winning culture. It's not going to happen next season. And I feel like that's where a lot of these other comments from other people outside of Sharks media seem to be focused on. Like, these moves are not meant to, yep, the Sharks are definitely going to try to get back to the playoffs next season. And it's like, okay, let's be realistic, which you're not doing. Like, I can't see a path that he could do it. And if he did, you better be giving him that GM of the year, like hands down. Like if he were to somehow turn this around in one season alone, like that's like God level of turning shit into water because but they're talking about just in general like the moves that he's made, and despite everything that people are saying, and despite the Sharks being terrible this year, he's cleared out the roster from all of those as much as he can, all of these really long bad contracts with aging players that is really going to hurt a rebuild in the long run. He's been able to make that happen. And if he's able to do that and also secure the first overall pick this season with a player that could really help the Sharks start to head in the right direction, on top of like the other amazing prospects that we continue to see do amazing things in their game to eventually come up to the big club. That's the hope. It's not happening next season. Pump the brakes to anyone that thinks that that's going to happen. It is not, but it's just all these little things that are happening that are not getting enough credit. And it was just really great to see someone being like, yeah, they're shit this year, but he's done a lot of great things. And if he gets the first overall pick, that is going to be a really great scenario for us after this long and trying season.
Yeah, hands down. I mean, like, it's so funny when you're in a rebuilding period and everybody has an opinion, everybody has a take on where your team's at or what your team's doing and who they're bringing in to fix things. And I'm biased because in that weird sort of way, like it does feel like the Canucks took a dumpster fire and turned it into something beautiful in the span of a year. I think there is a really good case to be made for the Canucks front office. But with that being said, when it comes to things like GM of the year and these other like postseason sort of awards, I don't think, I mean, like you said, there's always this emphasis on like GM of the year who puts together a winning team, but there is something to be said about GMs like Mike Greer that come in and lay the groundwork, the foundation for being able to, I don't want to say recover the franchise, but in order to, rewrite the ship and get back on track, I think that sometimes when we talk about GM of the year, coach of the year, those dudes kind of get the short end of the stick. Like it's very much like people outside looking in, they look at the stats, they see, well, you've won X amount of games, you've lost these games, you're here in the standings, like what is this team really doing? But you have to get through the muck to like get to the pavement, right? Like you can't just these rebuilds, this kind of stuff isn't you can hit the ground running in sort of a sense, but it still takes time to get up to speed. And so um yeah, I mean, I think it would be amazing to see you guys get the first overall pick as long as it doesn't go to Chicago. I'm I'm all right with that. Because listen, like obviously, you've got a GM there that's got a game plan. He's trying to clear out what he can, the leftovers, and put San Jose back on that winning path. And I think, yeah, it might not be super reflective in current statistics, but you kind of have to like clear all of that away, clear all of that muck away, and look at what's happening underneath the surface. And Mike Greer, of course, you guys follow the Shark. Being Sharks fans, you follow the Sharks more than I do. You're more knowledgeable on what the front office be doing. You guys know more about that than I do. But I do think that there is something to be said in making these kinds of arguments for these guys that Greer still has a lot on his plate. He still has a lot of things to fix and recover in San Jose, and I just feel like some of the things that we've talked about here, it feels like Greer has an idea of where he wants this team to end up, and I think that proper credit should be due in those instances of guys turning, or at least laying a foundation down properly to turn the team around.
I agree.
Yeah, I mentioned on the last episode that it's so easy to be critical of this team. It's
Yeah.
very easy. We suck. Cool. Breaking news, we suck. It's so easy to take that and be like, what are the Sharks doing? And to me, that's pretty lazy. Like, you honestly don't know what we're doing.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
not
which
it's not all about just putting W's up. We obviously are not going to be doing that, because if we were attempting to do that, then people would be like, well, God, the Sharks need to get on that rebuild. It's like, I just feel like we're going to lose either way. And it's just lazy folks who are not here for the Sharks day in, day out. And they see this and they're like, oh, real quick story I can like draft up, because it requires very little effort to dig underneath the hood, which something that I'm gonna mention in a bit here, but
yeah,
do we want
yeah,
to talk
that's
about anything else related to this part?
yeah, that's the other thing, Jay. You have this. First of all, I really do appreciate this take of like, I really, 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 I love the last really all caps here. Need people who don't follow the Sharks to stop talking like they follow the Sharks. Jay, this is a brilliant take as somebody that went through a rebuild and was really tired of nobody having stories except for, oh, they suck. It's really easy to dunk on them. Let me write a story. Like you said, it's so easy for people who don't otherwise follow your team to suddenly have so many opinions about the team. And it's like, oh, where were you when we actually were doing things? Like now we're on your radar. So, um, interesting little story here from the Daily Face Off. Jay, give us your wrath.
Oh, here we go. Take two. So I saw this article that got put out, and it gives you, a little excerpt from what the longer portion of the episode is. I did not watch or listen to the whole episode, because same reason as last episode when we talked about another person within media who decided to take a shot at the Sharks and clearly has not been following this team. Like, I don't, from the bit that you say, like, I don't feel like I need to give you a download and listen to your whole hour rant about the Sharks when you clearly already are showing that you don't understand this team.
The first
So
sorry, not to cut you off, Jay, but what kills me is like I open up the article and the first line is, "Let's do our post-mortem on the San Jose Sharks." Like, there's not still games to be played. Like, you guys are already belly up, floating out in the ocean somewhere. Like, good lord,
I mean, they're not
there's
wrong.
but there's still breath in that shark. I mean, come on.
but it's like it'd be one thing if we're making the joke that, yeah, the Sharks are kind of dead this season. Like, that's fair assessment, but were we ever going to be alive this season is the thing. It's like, yes, we've understood the projection of this team, the moves that were made over the offseason. Like, if anybody was kidding themselves that we were going to be able to, turn around the season, whatever you thought, it was not going to be a rebuild. Like, let's not kid ourselves. So when I came across this, I'm like, okay, let's take a look at this thing. So Tyler Yaremchuk was joined by Frank Saravilli to discuss the San Jose Sharks and where they stand in the rebuild on their latest episode of Daily Face Off Live. And so Tyler says, let's do a post-mortem of the San Jose Sharks. Frank, when you look through this year, it's really hard to find any sort of victories for Sharks fans. Already, I feel like I'm going to have to I feel like I'm a teacher who's going to start red inking this paper, because first off, talking about people who don't follow this team. You're like, let's look through this year because it's really hard to find any sort of victories for Sharks fans. Already, no, there's many victories to take from this. They might not be winning related, but let's roll back and remind our viewers and our listeners that this team was dead from the beginning. Okay, let's just like establish that. So already I'm annoyed by this line alone. There are no any sort of victories. There are plenty. We talked about it in the last episode, so I don't really want to get too much into it again, but already this sets the tone that I'm not going to like this. It already feels like, but let's continue on. The only one I can come up with is that the season's almost over and you're one more year to the rebuild. Clearly not paying attention. That's the only thing you're going to take from this. Like, oh God, it's almost over. Woof. It's almost over. All those games, so not worth it.
The self-awareness to then end that with, is it fair or foul that there were maybe some little wins for the Sharks? Like,
I don't know. All the games? Like, they want us to lose all 82 games in the season? Is that what he's saying?
Like, geez, Tyler, I don't know. It feels pretty foul that you were just like, everything sucked for them. There's nothing they can take. Nothing will bring them joy.
From this whole season.
Nothing.
They did nothing. They did nothing but just lose. Awful. So Frank responds, not many. I would say the only win for the Sharks fans this year is that for the first time after the Hurdle trade, it feels like they finally have some sort of cohesive plan that they've begun to pare down some of these big contracts that are on their books. This is probably going to be it for a while because they don't have any retained salary slots left. And I think that also includes next year as well, if I'm not mistaken. I'd like to see them stockpile more picks and prospects. They should have some pretty good picks. The New Jersey pick should be pretty decent in the second round. We'll see what happens with that top 10 protected pick this year. And that has worked out better than they expected for the Karlsson trade. But when you look at the retained salary transaction slots all locked up to the next year as well, you're talking about sometime in late summer 2025 is the first time the Sharks will be able to really engage. What happens with Couture and other guys on the team, I know they need to be healthy, but they need to begin tearing it down. We need to begin tearing it down.
Tear what down? What's left?
Yeah, we're getting towards the end of the tear down. Have you again not paying attention?
What exactly does that mean? Like, trade everyone so we don't have a team? Is that what he wants? Like, he just wants to dismantle the entire franchise?
Just get rid of them all. Just get rid of them all. Tear it down. Just seems so extreme, like, for a rebuild take. Like, I mean, you guys had some pretty solid trades even during the season, I thought, like, for good assets. And this whole take feels like, why are they even trying? Like, put them back in the aquarium. They don't, like, I don't, everybody's an expert, you know?
Like, I agree. I'd like to see us stockpile more picks and prospects. But I hope that doesn't mean that we weren't already doing that. It's not like we can just go shopping and with an unlimited credit card.
There's 12 new forwards on aisle 13. You guys want to go pick them up? They're on rollback.
It's like, have you seen the roster? This is not the same roster that we had the season before.
Not at all.
You know, it's like they've had to say goodbye to people. They've had to move Burns, Karlsson. They've now moved Hurdle, but you know, like the teardown had already begun and they've already been doing all this. So like, if he means on top of all that, then yes, I agree. But it just seems like this tone coming from some folks that just seem to be taking it from the surface level and not digging much further under the hood is that they're being critical of this team like we don't already know that that's what needs to be done, like it's already being done. But like what Nessa's saying, like what do you want them to do? Just kind of like get rid of everyone on the roster? Like you still need to meet the salary floor. You still have to have a roster somehow. There's still contracts that you're locked into. They might not be these no movement clause long-term ones. And even then, what do you expect us to do? Because we can't move Couture and we can't move Hurdle unless they want to, and unless we get a third team involved.
Did you
we
say
can
Hurdle?
no longer
You mean
Couture and Vlasic.
Vlasic.
If I had said Hurdle, I'm just but it's like, yeah, we get it. It's obvious, but and then you've already talked about how we have no more retained salary transaction slots. Well, like I did see some folks commenting on this post, and they were bringing up the fact that when people talk about the Sharks, the line is being blurred between when Mike Grier took over. And again, if this is not, obviously, if you're going to talk about the team now, you're talking about Mike Grier because he is at the helm of the team. But it does get a little frustrating when it almost seems like people are commenting in a way where they're saying that Mike Grier is not doing a good job. But the line seems like it's blurred, where you realize that, again, I know not to sound like a broken record from last episode, that he's inherited a lot of this stuff. And it's like, so I have to kind of toe the line of being like, okay, you're saying Mike Grier, but then let me make sure that you're not being like critical of like, God, like what is he doing? Like he's doing a terrible job, versus all of these, like, yeah, the retained transaction slot stuff, like that's all contracts that Doug Wilson had. And now what do you expect him to do? Because there's no way someone's going to take an aging player on a bad contract and help us out without any sort of retained salary involved. And if you only give us 3 slots, well, what else do you, I can't make magic happen.
Right. And it feels a little bit, I mean, like I get to the extent of where they're like, well, if you're going to rebuild your retaining salary, that sort of limits like this X amount of dollars you can use to bring in new talent. Like, I understand that portion of it because we went through a bad rebuild where there were a ton of bad contracts. But it's the same. I mean, like you said, there's only so much that you can really do for an aging player with an anchor of a contract. You gotta make a compromise somewhere. And so if that's like, well, we have to keep these 3 dudes for the retained salary amount on the Sharks it's kind of high, right? It's like there's like 6 million from somebody, 4 million for another player that you guys have kept. So it is a pretty high amount of money that already comes straight off the top of your cap. But would you rather not just eat that contract and then work within the confines of what you're giving to sign players and prospects that are developing the way that you would like to? Like, rebuilds don't happen overnight. They just don't. And like a prime example, not to keep bringing up the Canucks, but the prime example is the Canucks. Nobody started this season thinking we were going to be in the playoffs. It was a complete dumpster fire last year. We just happened to luck up and get a front office that could pull weight a little bit. Like, we could easily be still 25th, 20th in the league, and a lot of people didn't expect us to perform better than that. Sometimes miracles happen in the weird, and I don't even really call it a miracle. It's just, it's fun to be a Canucks fan again, which to me is like a miracle. But those things that's not like a readily like packaged sports story. Like the last time I can really think of a team having such a dramatic turnaround was when the Blues were beating the hell out of each other in like preseason camp and then turned around and won the Stanley Cup and had like that complete collapse before the All-Star break. But even then, that's not one of those, that's still not the same. Like, rebuilds are a time consuming process, and at some point, in order for a GM to ice the team that they want to ice, you have to make those hard decisions when it comes to like retaining the cap. Like, if this guy has to go and that's the only way you can make it work, would you rather have him age and continue to be an anchor on the roster, or would you rather give up a little bit and be like, okay, we'll take X amount of dollars every year if we can move this guy out and keep the ball moving, rolling forward? And outside looking in, as somebody that's not too overtly familiar with what the Sharks have going on, to me, as much as I was like, "Oh, that's a little bit painful," but like you got to do what you got to do. And overall, moving those contracts out isn't a loss for the Sharks. It gives you more of a clean slate to put together pieces. And if you can find young guys and young prospects that you've developed, or young draft picks that come in, like if you get the first overall pick and you nail somebody that can come in and can perform, it's not like you're going to sign these guys to 10 $12 million contracts right off the jump. That's just not the way it works. It's I feel you guys' frustration with the discourse around the Sharks, because at some point people just got to come off of it. It's easy to dunk on the team when they're doing bad and you think that they're making bad decisions, but good GMs understand that like sometimes you have to make a tough business decision in order to keep things moving ahead. So I listen again, like I said last week, leave the Sharks alone. Just just leave them alone.
Leave them alone.
leave,
I like
leave
some
the
of the
Sharks
comments on
alone.
this. Crying, sobbing, bawling.
So the last bit of this excerpt from the full episode says that there's a lot of debate about the Hurdle deal. There's certainly some strong opinions from front offices around the league that felt that, like Mike Greer, could have gotten a lot more for Hurdle this summer and wouldn't have had to retain had he been able to engage some other teams. I think it's the surprising nature of it really makes you wonder. At the time when Hurdle was hurt, did you kind of hold him up for auction, so to speak? So I would say, if anything, like this little bit is like an interesting conversation, but I'm under the impression that like isn't don't they talk more about how teams who are like buying versus selling and whatever, like the trade deadline is actually the more preferred time to get like the most bang for your buck? And it's like, yeah, I mean, maybe we could have gotten more if Hurdle was hurt, but going back to some of the points that were made last episode, that the Sharks are kind of like, yeah, we have control, we could hang on, but we're kind of in this balance of like, yes, we are going through this rebuild, but there is that bit of pressure to kind of like hurry it up. Like, we don't have all this like time to do it, is where it kind of feels like. I feel like there's other teams and franchises in this league that have a little more leadway. You don't have the problem where you're not going to have an empty arena, like, and those are like just like the teams that come to mind are ones that are just in Canada. Like, that's their like eat, live, breathe, you know, that's what they do. Versus, yeah, we have that love here in the Bay, but it's like we also are saturated with so many other sports. And like a thing we're going to talk about later on in this episode, like the new women's soccer team. Oh my God. So many people. It was so wonderful. But it's like, it's like we've got all this, we're spoiled out here. We've got all this sports. So it's like, oh, this team is shit. I'm just going to go across the street and go watch the other team, Like, we've got that. And so, it is a little tough versus an area that's really just like, that is just the culture. Like, they will go and watch their shit team and sell out for their shit team. And that's just how it is. So I feel like, like I would be interested to see, like, hypothetically what that would look like had he been like fine in the summer and all this stuff. But like, outside of that, I don't know. Like, to me, I don't really, that kind of like, that ship has sort of sailed for me.
Yeah.
Minus the fact that they're totally profiting off of a phrase that he said like over 10 years ago, and it's like, Vegas, you weren't even born yet, so I don't understand. That's like this younger generation who's bringing back some like older stuff and
Like flip
reinventing
phones.
it for. It's like, oh, look how cool we are, and it's like you weren't even a thought in your parents' minds around that time. Like, what are you doing? But anyways,
This phone's so cool it bends in half. Yeah, yeah. And it also, we had to pay extra for the internet. So, way to go, Gen Z. Yeah, real good bringing that one back. No. Speaking of the Sharks, well, but I love the Sharks today. I always love. Listen. We talked about it last week about how your team is growing on me, in sort of a
It's
weird
because we
like
suck, right? Like we are
Yeah, it's
no threat
endearing.
to the Canucks.
And then whenever you guys get good, I'll be like, gosh, you remember when the Sharks were fun when they were bad and I liked them at one time? um, the Sharks did the Vancouver Canucks a favor last night because the Vancouver Canucks have had a hard time doing it themselves for the first time since 2020. And if you want to put an asterisk next to the 2020 bubble hockey season, this is the first time since 2014 the Canucks are going to the postseason. We clinched. We're in.
Golf claps.
golf clap.
You know what? There's
That's
a
what
little
we'll be doing this off season.
Yes, good job, Canucks.
shout out to listen. We really could have won. We could have clinched after the Wild beat Vegas, but the Wild did not do that. Minnesota, you've disappointed me.
Did you guys know that rule? Because I learned something new the other day.
I did not. And I was like, wow, Wild, what have you done? No, yeah, I didn't know that. If you pull the goalie and you get scored on, you don't get the extra point in overtime, apparently. Which literally sounds like somebody just, like, was bored one day, wrote it on a whiteboard, and the league was like, we'll do that. That's fun. Fun plot twist nobody will know about till that happens.
So just to like humor ourselves, what do we think of that rule? Because that, like, okay, so I'll start out with the just general analysis of it. Like, what were the Wild thinking? Or did they also not know about the rule? Because
I would have
why
to assume,
would you just not try, and then if it doesn't work out, you go in the shootout anyway? Or do you not trust any of your guys on your team to win it in shootout?
right, which is, it was a little bit weird to me for them to have, like, the notion of, like, pulling the goalie in OT, like, oh, that's risky business, walking on the Wild side. No pun intended. But that really was, like, it was a wild move for the Wild to pull. They were like, let's just go for it. Because they're not, as far as I'm concerned, they're not, like, in the playoff hunt. Are they even in the wild card hunt, the Wild? I thought that they were.
So many wild puns today.
I know, there's so many wild things. That's a weird
It's where
rule.
they are, you know.
I feel
The
like nobody.
Wild are, it's gonna be really rough for them to get in. They are math numbers away from from the second wild card spot. They have 79 points, and the Kings are in the second wild card with 87. And so, like, that's they're not, if they're attempting, they're
not
they were
attempting
really
well.
like,
this is a very not happening attempt.
They're like, let's throw the kitchen sink at it and see what happens, just for funsies.
So it really just seems like they were in ultra desperation mode to the point where it's just do or die.
And they died.
Yeah. And in which case, shout out to the Wild for being that gutsy and for probably learning a rule themselves in that regard. I don't know if any of us knew that was a thing, because I certainly did not. And the general consensus is that people were like, what do you mean they don't get a point? So, like, what is the weirdest thing?
It's so sad.
It is so sad. It is so sad. I like the gutsy decision by the Wild. I wish you guys would have pulled it off. But, lo and behold, we have the Sharks who are just doing a terrible job at everything, including beating the St. Louis Blues 4-0 last night. So San Jose, I love you. Thank you so much, because we couldn't clinch on our own. But those Sharks who are screwing up everything did a great job of doing stuff beautifully last night.
You're
Plus,
welcome.
you guys, I mean, a shutout win. Who was in net last night for the Sharks?
Mackenzie
I didn't get to
Blackwood.
watch it because I was watching the amazing new women
It was Blackwood.
just down this way.
Jay was like, I was trying to experience gay joy. That's what was happening to me.
There were gays out there, okay? I
was
just looked
doing
around and
self-care.
be like, I see you. I see you.
So happy.
Jay heard about Nessa's scouting assignment and was like, I would like to go prospecting of my own.
All the gays. All the gays.
What doesn't deny it doesn't yeah.
Hey,
I'm sure lots of eye candy.
You get first round picks out there.
I can't do the fun pickup lines. I'm sorry, I can't. I don't have good ones for you.
There were definitely like a number of older gays that I saw, and in that moment, I was like, they have been waiting for this moment forever.
That's true. That's true.
The party has arrived.
Finally. But like,
so I mean, but that's kind of like your joy. Like, did that reverberate? Like, because there was so much gay joy there, and then the Sharks won. So I feel like maybe
extra gay joy.
Yeah, it was like the vibes were in the area.
We had so much. It was such an amazing atmosphere that there was just carryover. And the proximity of the Shark Tank to the PayPal Park, it just.
I'm sorry.
The South Bay was just getting ready for Trans Day of Visibility.
Are you laughing at the name of the where they play?
It's called PayPal Park?
Yeah, it is.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's almost on par with Crypto.com Arena.
I don't know. I think it rolls off the tongue a little easier.
It really does. It really does. It was the way that was worded. It was like the Shark Tank is so next to PayPal Park. Like, go visit these sharks, and then you venture across the street, and you send a couple people money, and you get to enjoy a park for yourself.
Yeah, it was just renamed like a couple.
I mean, that's kind of what I did. I paid money to go in there.
I wanted to, I'm such a hater. I always have to bring the haterade to the Canucks, even though you've been so kind to the Sharks this episode.
I don't deserve this.
I saw this tweet this morning that said, "Life back when the Canucks last played in the postseason in Rogers Arena ice, or on Rogers Arena's ice," and it's like 4 different photos. One of them is of that. Do you remember the Discord around the dress? It was either gold and white or black and blue, and people were arguing about what color it actually was. How long ago was that? There's a photo of Katy Perry with left shark. I don't know what the third one is, but it looks like a couple of men chasing an alpaca or a llama or something. I don't remember that one. And then the fourth one is just like a screenshot of Jon Snow from Game of Thrones. It's just like, what a interesting, wild, nostalgic ride.
It really, really is. It's so wild to be here. Like Left Shark was iconic back at. Speaking of Sharks and Canucks, like Left Shark was our shark when we were in the playoffs last time. That was our other aquatic shark friend back in that day. The thing that really sent me when I seen Wyatt's tweet though was the dress, because of all of the dress discord that happened. But yeah, no, like straight up, like that's. I mean, most people I think hold a degree of maybe like subconscious asterisk around the bubble season, which the Canucks were in those playoffs. You guys, okay? No revisionist history. Okay, we beat
the Sharks weren't, so I kind of like blanked that out.
we beat Vegas in round 1. We to the point where most even Peter DeBoer came out and was like, Demko haunts the nightmares of our team, which was like one of the most beautiful things to come out of that playoff run. It has like legitimately been 10 years. Like the last playoff run we had was 2014. I believe that was we lost to the Kings in round 1. It was also like Daniel Sedin got like concussed with a bad elbow from Dustin Brown, and it was just such a horror story. And
God, the
that
Sedines. That makes it sound even more further back.
you remember the Sedins when they could skate? Well, now they're coaches.
Everyone you just mentioned is retired now. You realize that?
Oh yes.
And when you said DeBoer, I was like, you mean when he was on Vegas?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because DeBoer was like Demko came in, like that was where the legend of Bubble Demko came in. Like
Yeah.
the man had no he was out there stopping stuff barehanded at one point in time. And then Peter DeBoer was like in a press conference, he was like, Demko is in our nightmares. Like we can't figure out this goaltender. And that was a nice little fun pick me up back in the pandemic because I needed those wins, those literal wins. I needed them to keep my sanity when I was in quarantine. It's fun. I can't lie. I am super superstitious of the playoffs, of playoff hockey. But I get to experience it again this year, and
Good luck.
it is, yeah. I get really. I'm gonna be honest, you guys. I get really worried because the
Very
power play
stressful.
is atrocious. It's so bad. Power play is atrocious. Demko is on LTIR right now, which we could still come back and like. I think the earliest he can play is April 6th. So we have like another week without Demko. The team's been kind of like, I don't want to say foot off the gas, but it does feel like we're coasting a little bit. The power play is kind of in shambles. So, like, look, there's a lot we need to get together within these next couple of weeks that would make me feel, I think, a little bit more peace of mind. Like, we could come in and do things. And then there's also the chance that we get, like, Edmonton, Nashville, Vegas, or LA for our first round opponent, which all of those could be pretty good. Nashville's been on a run since they were told they weren't allowed to go to that U2 concert, so that makes me kind of nervous because they may just run through us before they.
Don't worry about the Preds. I've had sorrows all season, and they had severely left him out to dry. Like a couple of games ago against the Coyotes, I was like, "Do you mind? I am in my fantasy playoffs right now. Do you mind? Help this man out."
So I'm excited, you guys. It feels it like I've been saying all season for the first time in what truly genuinely feels like years. It's fun to be a Canucks fan again, which is why like after going through it and getting to this point, like I love that joy as a hockey fan, which is why like I'm like, let's go Sharks. You guys will get there, and then you'll be able to experience the joy one day too. It's because after you've been through what I mean, like to put it into context, we didn't lose 4 games in a row until early March, late February. We lost the first 7 games of the year last season. We went like 8-17.
We're totally ahead of you on that. I can't even count how many losses we've had before that shutout.
Yeah, and that's I mean like you guys get it. It's miserable. Like that's a miserable feeling. Like, cause you want to see your team win.
The sad thing is, it wasn't even the first 9-game losing streak. You know, we've had multiple.
It's like, this is not so bad. We've been here.
We've gone 10. We've gone 11. This one's not that bad.
Right.
I just feel progress.
I just feel like some people wanted to panic. Like the Canucks weren't blowing the doors off of people shortly before the All-Star break. If you go back and look, it were all like 1-goal wins, one goal overtime wins. They weren't, or even like 1-goal losses. They weren't blowing the doors off of anybody. Even still, some of these recent wins here in this long homestand have been 1 or 2 goal games. There's been a couple of, we've scored 3 or 4 and had a nice lead, but the Canucks have been, I don't want to say regressing, but they've been dealing with their own sort of adversity. I don't want to call the team wishy-washy, but there is this degree of like, it feels like on some level we got complacent, and that started to haunt us a little bit in the back half of the season. So I would like to see them get whatever the hell that is out of their system and be able to finish out the last 8, 9, 10 games of the season here, with a little bit more like what they did at the beginning of the year. Because truly, the turnaround has been. We finished last year 38, 37, and 7 with 83 points. We clinched the playoff spot like 45 and was it 45, 19, and 8 with 98 points. Like, that turnaround before the end of the year is wild. It's not where any of us expected to be as Canucks fans. It's not where certainly any of the media expected us to be, especially after we lost those 4 games straight and TSN puts out a graphic with all big letters, pretenders, like over like our starting 5 players. Like, pretend what? We're in. Thanks to the San Jose Sharks who could take care of business when we couldn't. So, am I nervous? Abso-freaking-lutely. I don't want to be embarrassed. I don't want this team to embarrass themselves in any type of way. But what fun! What fun to actually, get a chance to experience meaningful games in March and April and May, and on some level, you hope June. It just, manifesting.
I just like to point out that we are also having very meaningful games right now. The meaning is a bit different than yours, but ours are equally as meaningful.
Yes, because you guys are playing important hockey in San Jose.
Yeah, we are.
If those games aren't meaningful to like the Frank Saravellis of the world, what you guys did last night was certainly meaningful to me. And so, yes, you're playing so much meaningful hockey in March right now. Thank you, Sharkies.
That's silly. I think the theme of this episode is gay joy, right? Because your Icemen are also clinching. They clinched same day.
Yes,
Look at you.
It was a good. I know. That's why I had to wear the Iceman hoodie and the Canucks hat, because I was like, I don't know which team to celebrate more. The Icemen haven't let me down to the degree that the Canucks have. Like, the Canucks have been out of the playoffs, but the Icemen have consistently been in every year. So even when the Canucks season is over, I'm like, there's still hope. Somebody can win a cup. And yeah, last night it was like a 1-0, 2-0 win over the Florida Everblades, who is our in-state rival here in the state of Florida. And I'm pretty sure that they are the defending Kelly Cup champions in the ECHL. I got to look it up. I feel like we maybe lost 1 game to them, but I could also be wrong. We've pretty much like handled the Everblades all season, which is so nice because we normally get them in round 2 and then we get swept by the Everblades in round 2. So kind of hoping that this is a good indicator of like they won't be that thorn in our side this season, because we've seemingly figured them out. But yeah, like it's guys, this hasn't happened to me since the Icemen have existed. We haven't clinched. Both teams haven't been to the playoffs in the same year. I don't know how to act. It is so much joy here on the Trans Day of Visibility. I am visibly a happy trans man today. Thank you, hockey gods.
I'm so glad we got your camera thing worked out, because that would have just felt very odd to be celebrating Trans Day of Visibility when you're invisible.
That's my superpower. Trans Day of Visibility, but you can't see nothing.
You can't see me.
I become John Cena. John T-Duff. Speaking of which, of Trans Day of Visibility,
happy
you guys
Trans
are
Day of
aware.
Visibility. Woo!
Yeah, happy Trans Day of Visibility to everybody.
We see you.
You guys can see. You can see me here. So I'm a visible trans person on this day.
Only today?
Oh, the other days I mail it in. You may or may not see me. But yeah,
I will speak on behalf of the non-binary portion of that community.
For sure. Jay, I was like, listen, I was about to throw it to you. I was like, I'm sure Jay wants to wish all of the non-binary people out there a happy T-Dove. You guys are included in this. You guys are included in this because at some point or another, the people fighting against us are so ignorant they don't realize the differences, and they all clump us together. So, welcome. No, what a great mildly controversial day if you're into manufactured outrage, because today is March 31st, which also happens to be the day that Jesus came back, and it's it's got so many people in an uproar. So I wanted to lead into the Trans Day Visibility bit with this. Easter changes days every year. It's based off the Jewish calendar, which is based off the solar and the lunar cycle. Passover changes dates, therefore Easter changes dates. March 31st has been the Trans Day of Visibility for years. Okay, so if anybody catches any of my hate tweets and decides to hate watch this podcast this morning or tomorrow or whenever, I just want you to know we didn't come for Jesus today. It's not what happened.
I would love for people to hate watch this podcast.
Same. Please do.
We'll take your downloads, whatever. Thank you for your support.
I woke up. I was all over Twitter this morning. I chose so much violence. I was like, everybody's so mad. It started yesterday because everybody was like, this is blasphemy. And it's like, there's some things out there that are blasphemy that I could definitely go in on right now. But the fact that you guys just decided March 31st was Easter because of everybody's on a different calendar, and then we're like, the trans people hate God. No, we don't. No, we don't. This has nothing to do with your holiday. This has been our day for years, and it's not blasphemous to say Happy Easter and Happy Trans Day of Visibility. It's just not, y'all. The dude that came out of the tomb, he loved everybody. According to what he said, there was nothing. Jesus didn't say love everybody but, and Jesus didn't say love everybody unless. I grew up in a Southern Baptist church. The man loved everybody. He was a Middle Eastern hippie, and he didn't come out of the tomb on Easter and was like, I did this for everybody except for the trans people that want to be visible on March 31st. That wasn't a part of that. It wasn't. So happy.
I'm sorry,
T-Dub.
Drew, were you there? How do you know?
Me and Jesus go way back, okay?
Dang, you immortal. What's your skincare routine?
I moisturize. I use paraben-free soap.
So the other day I saw my stylist, who's also a good friend of mine, and after we were done and I was heading out, she said, "Oh, and have a good zombie day." And I had to pause and think about it. I was like, "What? Is there something about is there a zombie movie fest going on right now? What is that?" And then because I'm not religious and I don't celebrate Easter, it hit me later on. I was like, "Oh, funny. Like it."
You know
okay.
you want to hear something funny? I actually made that joke as a teenager. I remember back in the Facebook days, I made a post about it. I was like, if you really think about it, Jesus is a zombie. He came back from the
He's
dead.
the OG zombie.
Maybe he inspired the zombie movies.
I call it zombie.
Oh my gosh, should that be the title of our episode? Jesus was a zombie.
Trans people turn Jesus into a zombie.
Wait, Trans Day of Visibilities, Jesus was a zombie. Jesus is a zombie. Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry to offend.
Right.
He's still
He
here.
is risen.
He is the original undead, That would make a great metal band name. So Jesus, if you want to be a front man, I have your name lined up whenever you want to drop your mixtape. The original undead. I do want to just say, I don't want to get on a soapbox about this, but I do feel like this is.
But you will.
Maybe, this is maybe the platform where we could do it on. I looked up exactly why Easter changes dates on Friday. I didn't know. I never knew. I was just like, it's a religious holiday. Yeah, I grew up in a Christian household, and I get it. Easter changes dates, but I never knew why. I just thought it was something the church did. They were like, we're feeling frisky. That Sunday's Easter. But that is essentially kind of what they do, because everybody follows a different calendar, and they just sort of pick the date based on the full moon, the first Sunday that follows the full moon following the spring equinox. And so I did some looking into this, and I do have a solution, so that people don't have to manufacture outrage for when these things happen, like when the trans people are visible at the same day zombie Jesus is visible. Nobody knows the date of when Jesus was born, and the church has gone just as far as admitting that. But somewhere, and this is how they did it, the full moon right around December 25th is exactly 9 months after the spring solstice, and they're like, that makes sense. He was conceived in the spring solstice, and then he was born in the winter solstice. Nobody really knows, but yet we've taken this linear version of time on this calendar system we all use, and we were like, you know what, most of us are going to do it December 25th. So here's a solution to that. Do the same thing with Easter. Do the same thing with Easter. It doesn't necessarily have to be the first Sunday after the first full moon. Just, the moon cycle. We know the moon cycle for years ahead of time, right? Because we track the orbits. That's like what NASA is all about. So just pick a Sunday. And if you make it the first Sunday of April or you make it the third Sunday of March, will never be March 31st. And we can avoid all of this manufactured outrage. Listen, you guys picked a fake date with Christmas, is all I'm saying. You could pick a fun one for Easter, and then we don't have to worry about being butthurt over issues that don't matter in the first place.
And that's the trans agenda.
That is the trans agenda. The trans agenda is picking one date for Easter so that none of us spend 3 weeks asking when it is. I'm just finding solutions to problems, you guys.
See, so since I did not really have any like religious upbringing, when I saw all of this like happening like on socials, I had to do my own research of it because I'm aware of Easter. I don't like you have to look up like why does it change? I didn't even realize that it changes. And so people who are talking about how, they're so in touch with their fate and everything like that, it's like, why don't you know that? And if you do know that and you're still making a big deal about it, like maybe it's just because you're transphobic.
Right. Right. And I'll say this as somebody that I grew up in the Southern Baptist Church, and if you've ever done any inkling of research into Baptist Christians, literally the whole history of that church is problematic. It's so problematic. But Jesus, in the doctrine that I was taught growing up, Jesus didn't be up on the cross and he was like, forgive them, Father, for they don't know what they do, except for the LGBTQ community. They're well aware of it. I'm not being crucified for them. That's not the lore of the story. He was a hippie. He loved everybody. He had cool party tricks. He was like, bro, watch me turn this water into wine and walk across the river. And people were like, Jesus is wild, bro. But then he did that. He did that. So it's all manufactured outrage. It's all manufactured outrage. They're the people that like to make these sort of big, and if you look at where it really like originates, it's none other than that one congresswoman from Georgia. You all know the one. It's all manufactured. It's all manufactured. Easter changes dates every year because that's what the faith, the people that celebrate Easter recognize, is that it's the first Sunday of following the full moon of the spring equinox. We, as a community, were like, this is going to be our day, March 31st. That's unproblematic. And then suddenly the 2 days just coincide, which they do. If you look at it, there was a journalist that said it was like every 13 years this kind of thing will happen. But it just so happens that 2024 is the 13th year in this cycle. And so now it's all of a sudden trans people are coming for zombie Jesus. No, we're not. No, we're not. It's not blasphemous. it's
But what if we are?
Listen, we all
I mean,
just want...
obviously, if you can't tell, this is just such a ridiculous
It's
thing.
so stupid.
And
It's and for those of you that are listening and have maybe had issues with your faith, because trust me, I'm somebody, I don't buy into organized religion, and I also posted this on Twitter. Organized religion is a man, especially in the Bible world, is a man standing behind a pulpit telling you his interpretation of what the Lord said. Here's an idea. Call me radical. Stop listening to him and just listen to what Jesus said in the book you say that you're living your life by. You'll be totally shocked. At no point in time was Jesus like, screw any trans person or LGBTQ person or person that doesn't fit this paradigm. Jesus was like, bro, I got one fish and one loaf of bread. I'm going to feed all these hungry people. Watch this. It's going to be cool as hell. He didn't care. He wasn't like, trans people don't get to eat the fish and the bread. That's not in the Bible. That's not in the Bible. That wasn't Jesus, bro. It wasn't Jesus. And I'm sure he has no problem with us being visible on the day that he comes out of the tomb. It's all just manufactured outrage. It's all and what's crazy to me is, like, I went down the rabbit hole about the Easter date changing on Friday, and then I woke up yesterday to everybody suddenly outraged about it, and I'm like, oh, this is fine. If time wasn't made up, we could just make up a date for Easter and everybody would be happy. Because it's all made up.
So
It's all made up. The dates.
This is you not wanting to get on your soapbox. Just to clarify.
I mean, I've kept it really, really polite. I've kept it really, really polite. I dropped so many profane things in my personal Snapchat story this morning where I was like, y'all are lame. I'm just doing the Lord's work and educating people on what the man actually said. Listen, you can take the middleman out.
Do you know who else is doing the Lord's work though? BayFC.
Yes. Oh, before we switch, guys, did you guys know that there was a trans woman that was a race car driver?
No.
Yeah, let's go. I was looking for a good T-Dove post to share, and Charlie Martin is her name. She's a trans woman race car driver, and I just think that's badass.
That's neat.
Yeah, I've always wanted to be a race car driver, and when I seen that, I was like, "You go, girl! Like, you smoke them."
And before we move on, I also want to point out, on top of this day being so controversial, it's also Cesar Chavez Day. So, people can celebrate on multiple. The dude was born on this day. So, I mean, if you want to go and give people a hard time for being born on the Lord's Easter Day zombie time, I mean, it sounds like you're just kind of making it all about you. So
yeah. It really irks me. The reason I think it was just it really got under my skin is because, of course, the narrative was used to further drive a wedge issue in politics that demonize trans people. And they all know that Easter changes dates, and they've suddenly become aware of T-Dove because we're the one thing that they keep targeting in their politics. And so this was just such an easy narrative to run and stoke more hate and stoke more fear, and it's all just BS. And the guy that they claim to worship wouldn't have had a problem with it. All I'm saying. So happy T-Dove, you guys. Jesus does love you.
A lot about people who just don't do their research and just talk like they know what they're talking about.
America,
freedom. But speaking of badass women, like trans women that drive race cars, the National Women's Soccer League. The whole league full of just badass ladies doing cool things. You guys, BayFC, I know you're both stoked about that.
I was just thinking about that tweet you shared, Jay. It's like Morgan, lesbians. So good. I didn't get to catch this game, but I saw that.
Oh my god, it was so fun. No, they didn't.
Of course not.
But it's okay. It's okay. Yeah, so if people are not aware, I am a season ticket holder. It is something that I have been kind of thinking about ever since this team was announced, because I've been following. Hey, now it's also supporting the team, so it's not just about me. So ever since I got into the sport, it, like, with really anything, like even like we've talked about with the PWHL, how it would be so awesome to have a team here. I think that getting a soccer team here would be way more likely than that happening quite yet with hockey. But ever since I got into it, I've wanted to have a team here. I've been following the team out in Seattle for like quite a while. But, you know, it's like the moment I stepped into this game at PayPal Park, I was just like, oh yeah, it's going to be so exciting to come to this park and to watch this team and to get to know them. And so it was it made me a little anxious to get there because I've been out to like the San Jose Earthquake games like years back. A friend of mine had season tickets and I'd go with him, and the parking situation has changed a bit. I think it's like improved, but it's still like I'm used to going to Sharks games. I know where I want to park. I know what time I need to leave. I know like all this stuff, like, you know, and heading out, I tried my best to, you know, figure out everything I needed to. I decided, you know, for the first game, I'm just going to get a parking pass and I'm not going to worry about and whatever. I get there and then I'm in the queue to get into the parking structure, and I'm trying to load my parking pass. And of course, there's like 18,000 other people in this like area of the bay who are probably all trying to connect to the towers in the area, and it's like not connecting. And I tried my best to get this parking pass onto my phone before I left because I figured that would be much easier to just load it locally, but it would not attach to my like Apple Wallet thingy. And I didn't really think about it. I was like, that's fine. I'll just do it when I get there. I'm in this queue and I've just got my phone like trying to load in because it makes me want to like have to log into my Ticketmaster account and get to it, and it would not load. And I'm like slowly starting to panic, thinking like, what am I going to do when I get there? You know, all this stuff and whatever. So I get into the parking garage. I'm like telling the guy, you know, I can't load my ticket. What can I do? Blah, blah, blah. After 5 minutes of trying to like connect to get it, he's like, you know what? Just show me your email confirmation. I'll let you go in, blah, 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 and whatever. I'm like, cool, great. Find a parking spot. Start walking over to PayPal Park, trying to load my ticket to get into the arena. Same problem. Have to go to the ticket booth and try to get, you know, help from them. Manage to connect to the Wi-Fi at the arena. Finally get in, go through a security check. Usually I don't bring anything. I just bring my keys, my ID, and maybe, you know, something else. I'm holding up my keys as I'm walking through, you know, because they're like, take out everything from your pocket and walk through. The person who let me through ends up looking at me like as I'm walking through, notices my keys and says, wait, stop, you have a knife. And like the person on the other side of like the security gate thing, I told them, they're just keys. They're just keys. And that person says, it's okay, it's just keys. And I'm just like, maybe. I get it. You're doing a great job. Just maybe don't yell, someone has a knife. Maybe let's omit that part for next time.
Before you get tackled, my God.
Let's not yell that part.
You should just stop with like your hands in the air and been like, who?
So after all that craziness, I managed to get to my seat. And so the atmosphere is electric. It is just so many excited people, so many people there with their families, so many gay people left and right. Just everyone is excited to welcome this team in. And, you know, like I said, I've been to Earthquake games before, but I just feel like this was like on another level. It's like, I mean, there were some like technical difficulties with like the PA. I felt really sad for the person who sung the national anthem because it was like crackling over the PA system. And I'm like, no, you poor thing. You're doing such a great job. It just sounds crappy. But it's not your fault. It just sounds crappy. And then, they had the starting lineup, and it was just like, just like sitting in for a Sharks game, and you've got it like on the screen, and they're announcing the starting lineup. And, like the first two games that this team came out to play, like there were some highlights here and there, but, as Nessa kind of pointed out last episode, they just had some really bad defensive work. They spent most of their time in the other teams, like they spent most of their time defending and not actually driving the play and things like that. I felt like overall they did such a better job for this game. That crazy first goal that they just had like the ball was just all up like in that box area, and they managed to just pick a spot. It came loose, and they shot it up high. It was Dana Castellanos, I believe is what. Yeah. And she did the whole sliding knee like celebration. It was super cool. And then they had the NWSL debut of Rachel Kundananji, who is the first Zambian player ever in NWSL history, and she also scored her first goal in that game as well.
Beautiful goal.
And she ran.
Yeah, it is.
And she ran over to the sidelines where her teammates were. And apparently this is something that she does. This is her signature. She goes and grabs the Zambia flag and runs around with it. And I thought that was like super awesome. But they still have so much that they need to do, but a lot of parallels to kind of just what we're seeing with the Sharks team right now during a rebuild. Bay FC is in a different position where they're a new team, but that in itself is that their roster has never played together, and they need time to adapt to a new coach, adapt to each other. Like Rachel said in the post-game interviews, I mean, she was just like smiling like ear to ear. It was just so wonderful. You could tell that she was just like continuing to be in shock, that she's like, I'm here. I'm the first of, someone from my country to ever play in this league. I score my first goal. Like, it's just like, she is just still beaming and still trying to, get off this high. And like, but she was just so genuine, and she's just so happy to be there. Yeah, it was just like such a special moment that even though they lost, it's like, I don't care. Like, everyone was excited to play in front of this crowd, and the crowd was equally as excited to cheer for the team.
Was it, how was
18,000?
Yeah.
18,000 sellout.
Yeah, so it was a sellout.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. I got to see a little bit of the Kansas City Current, I believe is the name of that team, that Patrick Mahomes and his wife own or are partners in, and to see that, like the first kickoff for them and that stadium packed full of people, like, it's so awesome. It's so awesome to see this happen for the NWSL, for the PWHL, and actually like get proper funding for sports for these ladies to come in and be able to compete at their best levels, and just open up the game on so many different levels, right? Like, it really does so much for the growth of sports when we can offer those alternatives and make it more inclusive for anybody to come in and have a shot to play. I think it's so cool. I think it's awesome that Bay FC had that sellout. Like, the fact that, because if you think about it, I think there's still that little bit of like, I don't want to say like, not stigma, but there's that little bit of like, soccer isn't a U.S. sport. Like, it's not a sport that gets traction in America. But this kind of stuff is blowing that perception like clean out of the water, because like, people are showing up, and they're showing up to watch these ladies compete. And the women's national team, the U.S. national team, has been the bomb for years. Like, so it's just so good to see the sport of soccer grow and people flock to it and really want to watch these ladies just lay it all on the line, because they're just as talented, if not more talented, than their male counterparts in some regards. So there's no reason why we should be, having them play a professional soccer game on like a repurposed baseball field or whatever weird alternatives were out there back in the day. It's so cool. I'm so stoked. Jackson, I know we talked about it a little bit last year. Jacksonville's going to get a team with the NWSL here coming up in the next couple years. So it's like I love soccer. I found it at the same time I found hockey, and it's just so cool to see both sports kind of get their comeuppance in equal ways, where I not necessarily equal, but similar ways throughout North America. And this goal here by Rachel is just like a nice little boop right into the back of the net inside that corner of that box. So awesome stuff at Bay FC. And for people out there that are just finding soccer, getting into it, finding a team to adopt, like what Jay said is so important. New teams have so much to work out still. Like you could have all of the A+ characters come in and have a lineup full of all-stars, but you still have to figure out like they have to figure out the coaching system, and they have to figure out the plays and the chemistry and who plays where and who can do what better than this person, what this strength and what this weakness is. So, if you are, I don't know, Bay FC could turn around and surprise everybody this season. That's always still, they might start clicking before, I think realistically you would expect teams to click. But like, just remember, be patient. Like, this is a growing game. The team's growing. You're growing as fans, the sport, and you got to be patient with getting some of these things off the ground. Some teams just don't come in, even if they have the pieces to be a powerhouse. They just don't perform that way sometimes from the jump. There is still kinks to work out. So, just if you guys are watching Bay FC games and you're a fan, or any NWSL game, and you're getting kind of impatient with progress, you got to let the progress go. You got to let the growth happen, because these ladies are still working out the kinks out there in so many different elements of putting that game together on the field. So when things start clicking, I'm sure we will start to see which teams are really out there and are really like championship material teams to sort of keep up with in the future and see how they progress. So, what an exciting time for the sport of soccer. I love it just as equally as I love hockey, and this is like one of the raddest things to me, honestly.
I don't know too much outside of the Seattle Reign and just generally what teams are in this league, but they had said when I was watching the highlights after the game that the goal keep on the Houston Dash is like one of the best in the league. So the fact that we were able to get these two past her, and in a for a team that's still working out their how to play together, and this only being their third game together, and like the roster is still not all here yet. Like we've got a number of players that are international that are coming in. Like this was Rachel's first game because they just have to like work out getting her here and like all this stuff. And the fact that she like came in just, I want to say sometime this week, and then walks into this like game and scores that freaking goal. It's like,
No big deal.
like I said, the fact that they lost, I don't care that they lost. Like there were so many great moments, and just generally like the energy, the desire to have this team here, the fact that it was a sellout crowd. When you look around, you see families, you see diversity, like you see the diversity out on the field. There's all these different players. You've got Oshuala, who's Nigerian. You've got Dana Castellanos, who is Venezuelan. Like there's, like, yeah, this is a hockey podcast, but we're also, 2/3 in the Bay. And so we just kind of want to spread this like joy that like, this is exciting to have in the Bay, with how diverse we are out here and how it reflects out on the field, and to tie it back into hockey. And it's like, we're waiting for you.
Let me help you pick a cuter name than Bay FC, though.
Right. Yeah. I mean, soccer is anybody that's familiar with the sport, soccer is the global game. You don't need much besides a ball, and it's super accessible. Everybody plays, around the world. It's the sport of so many. There's so many different variations, and it is really cool to be in a time to be in North America to see this sort of geographic region catch up to the rest of the world and be so readily wanting to adopt it and for it to be successful and to continue to grow. What a cool thing. Like, I am sort of envious that you guys already have your team in your local area, like living vicariously through you. Because like it's just so cool to see um the fans even respond well. Like, you might not have got the result you wanted on the field, but the fans were just happy to be there and happy to be a part of something big and something exciting and something that has the potential to bring a championship back to the Bay Area. Not a slag on the Sharks, I promise, but like, like just a good. I mean, because listen, we know how that went for the Niners and the play in the Super Bowl, so it's cool. It's cool, and joy, just soccer joy. I love
Gay
I
joy
love
too,
soccer as much as I love.
specifically.
Yeah, so much. It's really truthfully, like, if there are two gay sports, like if we were gonna be like that sport's pretty gay, it's probably hockey and soccer. So I feel like soccer fits into the podcast theme pretty nice, to be honest.
Yeah, you could not get me to be upset at this team last night. Even that freaking penalty shot, I felt bad for Prue because I don't recall how, and again, there's some things that I still have to learn about soccer, like how these penalties happen. Like I don't know those parts of it. But I think what happened was, like, the ball was getting kicked into the box and someone on Bay FC, like, it hit their arm or something. And then they
Yeah.
were like assessed, like, for the penalty shot, and Prue stopped it, but then the rebound, and then the person who kicked the ball
No.
came in and kicked the rebound into, and I had like the instant, like, yeah, oh. I was like, no. But everything about it was like so exciting, just because, like I said, I've gone to earthquake games. I don't, I was like, oh, it's exciting to be a soccer game, but I just really could not connect with the team at the level that I felt with this team. I just instantly felt even more in love with this team when I got to sit through the home opener. Just the vibes, just the excitement from all of them. It just really, not to rub it in, Drew, but oh my God, it's just so exciting to finally have an NWSL team
Just
in the Bay.
professional women's sports in general.
Yeah, yeah. That's what I can't wait to see how this league grows, and then, like, yeah, I know we said it a few times, but the PWHL too. Like, I just feel like there's so many markets that are so obviously, like, there's so many people that are excited about these things. The growth, if done right, and if marketed and celebrated and spread the way that it should be, there's no reason why these ladies can't have sellout crowds every night, winning championships. There's no reason why we can't grow these games and give women athletes a fair spot at the table, right? And let them compete and show off their skills. Some of these women, I'm like, and I use some like loosely because, like, some, like, I mean, some, I mean more, are way more talented than like than like the counterparts that we're normally given to watch. There's I just feel like some people like to slag on women's sports a lot, and they're like, they're not as talented or as strong or as fast, and it's like, have you watched them play? Like, you guys are talking like mad, not true stuff. So, yeah. Nice, look cool. I'm excited to hear all of your season ticket holder stories from Bay FCJ.
Yeah, Jay, let's go to Pride Night together. AFC Pride
Hmm?
Night.
I mean, I'm gonna be at the game. I have all the tickets, so I was gonna tell you, like, I'm pretty sure there's a seat that's between me and the other people that were there at the game. I'm wondering if that seat is going to be really hard to sell because it's only like if there's another like set of like season ticket holders that are like I'm pretty sure the ones to the left of me are season ticket holders because they also have the same scarf that exclusively was given to folks who got season tickets. I'm not sure about the people who sat after the seat to my right. So
I don't
I'm
think
just
I can
saying
afford a
I'm
season
gonna.
ticket, but cool.
I'm not saying get a season ticket. I'm just saying
Oh, if I
that
want to go to a game, yeah.
if that is not bought by a season ticket holder, because there was no one who sat to my right all
I
game.
see.
So if that's like
Yeah,
just for single game ticket purchase,
right. I'm
I'm
there.
wondering
Let's do
like
it.
someone is like not going to get it because it's only got the one seat.
It's only one
Assuming
me.
there's
It
not
works
other.
perfect.
Yeah.
What Jay is saying
So
is you can be the buffer between Jay and then the other season ticket members.
That's
oh my god. So another thing, since I primarily am used to just going to hockey games that are inside
Was it
an
cold?
arena and I don't have to deal. I brought my Sharks throw blanket with me and I wore like 2 layers of sweater and I was still like, God damn, it's cold out here. I'm like more cold than when I'm at a Sharks game. I was like, God damn it. And then the thing that like added to my anxiety of trying to get to my seat was that the walk from the parking garage to the arena, it started raining.
Oh,
And
no.
I was like, you've got to be kidding me. Just like I feel like such a noob. I'm so like underprepared for like all of these elements that only occur during a soccer game. And I'm like, please do not be raining outside for this whole game. But thankfully it cleared up by the time I like got to the arena. But I was just like, you've got to be kidding me.
I haven't been to a professional soccer game before, so I'm gonna see if AFC will do the honors of being my first game.
It's such an exciting atmosphere. I just cannot even begin to like properly describe it. But it was just so many people were into it. So crazy excited. And when we didn't like something, you could hear the boos across. When Oshawa was handed a yellow card.
No.
It was like, yes, I don't even care if she deserved it or whatever. Boo. We don't like it.
I love soccer for that reason, right? Like, it feels like all of the passion of the fans, like, especially when you're in those sort of environments, because soccer fans are really diehard about their teams. Like, from the chants and the tifos to the flags, the, like, flares in the stands, like, it's that passion is so contagious. Like, even if you're just sitting there as a first-time fan or you're like, I don't know, my friend brought me to, like, the BFC game, like, it's hard to not get wrapped up in, like, the just unbridled passion of soccer fans. So it's cool. Like, I'm sure that would have been such a fun experience. It's just when, this first night and stuff doesn't go their way, the fans are like, boo, and it's like, yeah, boo you. Like, you're ruining our night. Like,
My coworker and his wife also went to the game, but like we didn't get to meet up. But we were telling one of my other coworkers on Friday about how we were going to the game, and she's not someone who really like follows sports, but she will go to hockey games because she likes like just the random fights and people knocking into each other. And so that's what she was saying, like, I like going to hockey games because of this and that, whatever. But she was saying, oh, I don't really like soccer because she was thinking of the men's sport and how they would flop around like on the grass and whatever. And me and my coworker were like, "Oh no, you haven't seen the women play."
well,
No,
no, there's no.
they will knock into each other. They will get it. You'd be like, "What?"
Nah, that girl, she didn't get flopped. She just got straight up bulldozed over right there at the half field line. That was not a flop. Women are so vicious in soccer. They will put the shoulder into each other, little forearm shiv when competing for the ball and try to create breaks and everything. Like, I love it. The competitive vibes between women's soccer and men's soccer are so vastly different. Like, I feel like a woman would have to like her ankle would have to be backwards attached to her leg before she would be like, I'm not playing no more. Like, I still have stuff to do out here. The toughness of a female soccer player is, it's so, man, it just makes for such an electric atmosphere. I would much rather, like, when it comes to the Olympics and the World Cup, I'd much rather watch the ladies play. There's none of that performative, like, he stepped on my big toe with the side of his cleat, and now I have to roll around on the field for 5 minutes and want to get a yellow card. There's
getting
none of
stepped
that.
on with cleats hurts.
I know.
I'm gonna flop around because he stepped on my teammate's toe over there, and I felt it. I'm offended on behalf of him. Flop, 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 flop.
I love soccer flop highlights where, like, somebody just barely scrapes, like, you'll just see, like, just the tip of their elbow make contact with the shoulder,
then
and
they're
then the
like-
person, like, on the ground holding their knee, like, I can't walk no more. And it's like, nothing happened.
The fun
Like,
part is, like, you see them register what just happened, and then they throw themselves.
like, oh, I have an opportunity. Like, you just needed a water break. You thought it'd be real fun to roll around in the grass. You're fine. Get up. Get on there and kick the ball.
That's what we should call embellishment. We should rename embellishment in hockey to being a men's soccer player.
Yes. I love how like personal, like, it's like, I don't know if, like, I guess there's, I don't follow basketball, but I guess there's a endemic of, like, flopping in basketball too, and I love how butthurt some people in different sports get when they're like, at a hockey player would eat a puck to the face and get stitched up 17 minutes later and return to the game, and a basketball player's like, but my calf hurts, I have to sit out for the rest of the game. It's like, there's a different level of toughness that comes with different sports. It's just so funny to watch people get to take, like you said, though, like, there's moments where they'll register that they have to flop to try to get something out of it, and they're like, this is a perfect opportunity for me to pretend to be hurt, and it's like, he tickled you, man. He walked up behind you and was like, and you were like, oh my god, I'm hurt. So
Soccer. Yay.
So soccer, you guys.
It's exciting time for the
Yeah,
Bay.
it is.
Very exciting.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try to make it out to go to more watch parties. I need more soccer in my life.
Yeah, you need some more soccer?
Is that what the kids are calling it these days?
Yep.
Some more of those gold being scored.
Drafting that dream team.
No. Enough. I'm over it.
Nessa wants a ring. The championship.
Do you also run around with your country's flag afterwards?
I cannot with you.
Go!
Nessa slides on the grass.
We're doing this again. Okay. Keep going. I want to hear more.
You know where they slide across the field? Like in men's soccer, they slide across the field, they, like, rip their shirt off, like, go! Nessa's like, any day my moment will come. I will get the ultimate celly.
Wow. Soccer's fun,
Hey,
guys.
that's alright.
That's all I wanted to say.
Really brings you
Gay joy, yeah.
some joy.
So, can I just officially report that I have won the finals in my other fantasy league?
Congrats!
Thank you, Canucks, because I have 4 Canucks players that I stacked for Sunday because this ridiculous schedule made it so hard for me to figure out how can I win this game. And I had Dakota Joshua, Niels Höglander, Connor Garland, and
Ooh.
good old Quinny Hughes. to my opponent's 0 players today.
Winnathan.
And oh my God, not to keep going because this episode is super long now, but it was pretty cutthroat on Saturday. And I chose very unwisely for another player to pick up. I chose somebody on the Blues because I decided, you know what, I'm not going to get my favoritism of the Sharks get the better of me and think that they were going to win this game, only for them to do their first win in how many weeks? And I was like, how does that help me though? But how does that help me? Because it was either that Blues player or Alexis Lafreniere on the Rangers, and I chose very poorly because Lafreniere got a hat trick and 2 assists, and I needed the 2 assists to win.
Oh.
And I was like, you know what? We're going to stack on the Canucks because I had one more ad and I had 3 Canucks already that I had always had Quinn. I picked up Connor Garland for this week, and remember I asked you, Drew, what is the status on Dakota Joshua? Because homeboy is cooking on my IR, and it would be really great if he came back this week because I really need him if it comes down to it on Sunday. And he delivered for me. He came back on Sunday, and he helped me out to get that power play point. And then what else did he do? And then Quinny got me an assist and a power play to tie up my power play points and my assists. 5-5 in the finals, and I have the tiebreaker.
I'm so excited because the Canucks were playing at 3:30 my time today. We were up 2-0 at the end of the second, and just to see if you should have any good updates coming out of this. Are you ready for this, Jay? Dakota Joshua scored a power play goal, 9:34 of the second period. And Quinn Hughes has an assist on the Brock. We scored 2 power play goals. Would you look at that?
That's what I just said. They delivered for me today. I needed those 2 power play points and an assist to tie
And you
in
still
those
have
categories.
still
And
20
I did.
minutes. And there's still 20
Jay's
minutes.
about to win both of their
You know what?
fantasy.
You know what? I've already won. And this was in my money league, and now I get to finally ask, how much am I getting? Because I have been holding off on that question because I was like, no. That's like counting your chicken before they hatch. Don't ask. La 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 la. I don't care. I will ask on Sunday. And now I can safely say, I win. What do I get?
That's so exciting. And if you guys still have a league going, and you could still, I don't know how late some of the fantasy leagues go into the playoffs, but if you can have another Canuck that I would recommend anybody that's still playing fantasy pick up, Niels Höglander, because he's been just a little beast. So if you have an extended fantasy league or even like a pool or whatever, Dak, Joshua, Garland, and Quinn, of course, but I don't know. Dak and Joshua, that is the same person. Niels Höglander is the other guy that you guys should grab if available, for sure, because those guys have been doing big things for us this season. So
they definitely came through for me.
I was excited to look at the box score and be like, oh my god, 2 power play goals! Like, a miracle has
That's
arrived.
what I needed.
He has risen. The playoff god has risen today.
Exactly 2 power play points and 1 assist, and I got them.
So excited for you. I can be excited for you because that means I can be excited for me.
So yes, thank you, Canucks. Thank you for showing up on Sunday.
Doing the Lord's work on Easter.
Jay being a Canucks fan and Drew being a Sharks fan was not on my bingo card.
Balance. You need a little yin, little yang. Well, guys, is there anything else that we need to say? Any PSAs?
PSA, my birthday's coming up. I'm so excited.
Yay!
Ooh, I got my birthday haircut. Feeling cute. That's it. That's it.
And for her birthday, she wants a Bay FC player.
No.
Yeah. So, well, Nessa, like, happy birthday haircut to you. I'm not gonna wish you happy birthday. That's premature.
Thanks.
Happy birthday haircut to Nessa. Jay, happy gay soccer game to you on your Saturday.
Happy
Um,
clinch playoff spot to you, I guess.
Thank you guys. I'm honored.
Oh, and yeah, happy Trans Day of Visibility. That's important.
Yes, yeah, and so yeah,
Happy.
if we have no other important things to talk about, then happy Trans Day of Visibility, and I have been your host, always off the rails, Drew.
Nessa.
I'm Jay.
Still don't know how to do this order thing. Okay, see you next week. Bye.
Bye, you guys.
Bye.